Yo, what up, everybody? This is Greg from Linq Mag. We're here for the very first episode of the Linq Up with yours truly, Greg Reynoso here. And I'm here in Orange, California with Herchell, owner of Pachuco Tattoo.
Hello, hello.
So let's just kick things off, Herchell. So for those that haven't seen you somehow, some way, either through their favorite NBA star or their favorite SoundCloud rapper, favorite producer, who are you? What do you do, man?
Shit, man. I mean, I'm just a creative. I'm a creative. Right now, I'm being recognized for being a tattoo artist. So, I own a shop here, Pachuco Tattoo. We're in the city of Orange, and shit, I've had it for 7 years now. 7 years now. So I'm a business owner. I'm a father, tattoo artist, all of that. So
hell yeah, sounds blessed. Dope. So tell us. So you've been a shop owner for 7 years now?
Yep.
And so how did you get to that point of owning your own shop?
I mean, I got here. I got the shop by honestly just hard work. A little bit about my background is I started tattooing out of my house. So at an early age, actually straight out of high school, I started tattooing out of my house, straight out of my kitchen, and little by little, it just transitioned over the years. I started getting busier and busier. I ended up getting a bigger place. At that time, I was independent out of my mom's house, so this was all me living on my own. At the time, it was me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and so we lived together. And basically, tattooing kind of came to be. Or came to me like at a time when I was struggling. So I didn't necessarily know I was going to pursue tattooing. At that time, it was more like another way I can bring extra income.
Right.
So that's kind of how it came about. And, again, it just transitioned. I ended up getting into a bigger place. The way it kind of happened was, or the way it happened that I got into a tattoo shop, because I didn't apprentice, I was self-taught, worked out of my house. The way I got into a tattoo shop, I started putting videos on YouTube. So, at it very early on, this is pre-Instagram, before all the big social media, blew up.
Yeah.
So I started putting out videos on YouTube as like a way to promote my tattooing. There was a new shop that opened up in Orange. It's called West Coast Inc. No longer in business. It was actually only in business for about 2 years.
Okay.
So I ended up there, and I worked there for about a little over a year. And it was just a domino effect, bro. I started getting busier and busier. I ended up working a year and a half there. And shortly after that, at age 23, I opened Pachuco Tattoo. So we've been in business 7 years. But I got here. Your question was, how did you get here? Hard work, man.
Hard
Sacrifices, work. Blood, sweat, and tears, all of that, really.
Late nights.
All of that.
3 jobs. Yeah. All the above, right?
Exactly. I remember, I was working at KFC, which is funny because, my shop now, we're next to a KFC.
Right, yeah.
So, I worked at a drive-thru, and, I remember passing out my business cards, and, I'd work all day, and I would tattoo nights and weekends. So I'd get off of work at 11. I'd go to my apartment, and I'd be smelling like chicken, and just, just tattooing my close friends and family out of my kitchen at that time, so.
Right, yep. Man, yeah. We hear a lot of that. There's a lot of creators that, have their side hustle, or it's really their dream. Their side hustles that maybe they're 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and the game is not meant for everyone. You really do have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, me personally, I've probably wanted to give up 2 or 3 times this year alone. You get in over your head, and you hit a bad month, or you hit you get in that funk. And so have you ever found yourself in a situation like that where you're maybe self-doubt? I don't know if this is what I want to do or
yeah, I mean definitely, bro. And I mean, I feel like that happens to any level. It doesn't matter how successful you are, there's always going to be hard times, and that's life.
Yep.
Ups and downs. Has there been times that I wanted to quit? Often. I mean, shit, I've owned this business. It's hard owning a business. It's hard owning a business, and then also still trying to manage and build up my own clientele, stay busy, focus on me while also trying to focus on the shop and taking care of everybody. Yeah, it can be overwhelming, it can be hard. There's constant rocks that get thrown along the road. So I mean, yeah, of course I've wanted to quit so many times, but what I tell a lot of my close friends and family is, I mean, you just the answer is, or the the key is don't quit, don't stop. That's really it. Do not stop. That's the secret.
100%. 100%. Hell yeah. So how, like, what age were you when you got into art itself? Because I'm assuming, you know, that, you know, tattooing stemmed from some type of other creative space, right? Or time in your life. So maybe tell us a little bit more about those early, just those earlier days getting into tattooing.
I mean, I'll go in a little bit before tattooing just because, like, you know, art has been my life as long as I could remember. I mean, as long as I could remember, I've always drawn. You know, I remember drawing like Disney characters, you know, Disney characters, Mickey Mouse, doing all of that. My uncle at the time, Hector, me and him used to draw as kids. You know, I remember being 4 years old and drawing next to him, you know, and I knew very young, like, that's what I wanted to do. You know, I always received awards like in elementary school and stuff like that. So, I mean, originally my original art dreams were to be an animator. I wanted to do cartoons, you know, I wanted to work for Disney, you know, and then later on, you know, came Pixar. Like, Pixar was like another goal of mine, you know. So this was all, you know, again, before my teens, and that was like my original art dream. I'd spend, you know, long days drawing in my room, you know, that sort of thing. But the way tattooing kind of came about was I got tattooed at an early age. I was 16 years old when I got my first tattoos. I think I got like a couple like back to back at that time. But I got tattooed, which is funny, man. I mean, I'll just share real quick. Like, you know, me and my wife, you know, we were dating at that time. So we got each other's names, you know. And bro, I was so young, man. And now looking back at it, I'm like, man, that's pretty crazy. But, you know, we're still together, you know. Again, you know, we have 2 kids now. So, like, looking back at it, like, it's crazy. We both got tattooed together, and, you know, that's really what started it off, you know? I got tattooed, and I started coming around the artist who was, like, he was a friend of the family. He's, like, an old school guy. Like, you know, if you're from Southern California, then you'll know, like, the vibe out here. But he was, like, an old school, like, veterano, like, cholo type guy, you know, who did just work out of the house and would just tattoo the neighborhood, you know? So he did some work on me and my wife at that time, you know, my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now. And yeah, I started watching him, and it was for a few years that, like, I was really just became interested in it. And at that time, you know, this is a little over 10 years ago. At that time, that's when, like, I feel like there was like a tattoo boom, like a tattoo gold rush, because, you know, reality TV is popping off, right? Yep. You have shows like Miami Ink, which was major, you know, that ended up, you know, transitioning into like LA Ink, or I think that was a spinoff. But, you know, there was all these tattoo shows. Reality TV was like really putting tattooing on. It was just a big explosion. And that's around the time that I became interested in it. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, it started off as like a hustle type thing, but later, you know, just years shortly after that, like, it just consumed me, man. Like, I became obsessed with it, you know, just constantly. I just wanted to tattoo. And, you know, again, I've always worked, so I just had this big dream, like, okay, I want to have a shop. I want to tattoo full time. Like, I want to make a living off of this, you know. That's how my dream of tattooing came to be, and that's how tattooing for me came to be, you know. So it just came at a time and place where I was struggling. I loved art. I knew I wanted to pursue art, and you know, it just ended up taking over. So
damn, that's dope.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
That is dope. That's I like hearing that kind of story. So you talk a lot about hard work and, you know, ambition, drive, and really just passion for the art and for tattooing at a young age. And so now, you know, we look at some of the things you've done. And so one of the things that caught my attention was, you know, you're the first to tattoo at Disneyland. And then I caught you at 7-Eleven and the Hollywood Boulevard too, right?
Yep.
So tell us, like, how did that idea come about, or how did that come about at all?
I mean, you know, so now there's the internet, right? I mean, you know, Instagram, for example, like, it's so visual, you know, there's so many artists on there. It's a great platform, you know, it's a great time to be an artist in today's time. There's an oversaturation of tattoo artists on there. There's plenty of artists. You see the same content every day. So for me, you know, I almost feel like I'm pulling off like a stunt, you know, almost like a magician, you know. It's like, it's just something different is really what I try to do, you know. I'm trying to take different approaches to things. I think, like, you know, I learned that very early on, because, like, I feel like, you know, I got discovered on YouTube type thing, you know. That's how I got into a tattoo shop. So I knew very early on that, like, you know, the internet was very powerful, you know. So I try to do things differently, really, and that's how it kind of came about. I'm like, it's also fun, it's fun, it's different, and it's I think it's just a cool look, and I plan on doing a lot more of that. That's just the very start of it.
So stay tuned then, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So kind of on that same note, you're doing things different. And then I mean, we're just sitting here looking at your wall. I mean, you have some big faces, some big names up here. And so let's talk about maybe how this started. So how did you kind of transition into, what you were doing and then get into, kind of, we'll just say celebrity status, I guess, and doing those kind of jobs?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, let's take it back to like West Coast Inc. Again, this is the first shop I worked at. I mean, it started there. I was tattooing a lot of close friends and family, at my house. I started building up a clientele. That was cool. I get into a shop and I feel, I get into a shop and then I feel like now, okay, I got to step it up. I got to start working more often, because at that time I feel like I wasn't really working as consistently. But, I basically started out by tattooing a lot of like, cool local people, a lot of people that were in the club scene, in the party scene, a lot of DJs, like that sort of vibe out here in Orange County. So it started off like that. I was working with my my boy, good friend of mine. He's like the closest person to a mentor that I have. Shout out my boy Niz Carrillo. He basically introduced me to a model who was a reality TV star at that time. I don't think she had the title of model at that time. She was a reality TV star, and her name's Britannia. She was on a lot of VH1 shows, and she was popular at that time. That's when Rock of Love was out, years ago. And my boy Niz introduced me to a group of people that that worked with her directly. And so, and she ended up coming along, and for me that was like a really good look, man, just because like I didn't get shouted out or anything like that, but for me, like for my portfolio, it was such a good look, because like I feel like right after that, the people that were talking shit on my tattooing, that, oh, I'll never get tattooed by this guy type thing, like all of a sudden they're all calling up like, hey man, I want to get tattooed. So that just kind of gave me like the official type stamp, and that was really cool. That did boost up my clientele. That was a cool look. It was fun, and then shortly after that, like I did a lot of groundwork, even at that time, bro. I was like flying, I was still doing cards. Like, it's so crazy now. You could just sit back on a computer and just promote all day without actually leaving the house, But even at that time, I mean, not only was I doing that, but like, I was flying the colleges and doing all that, the schools everywhere. I'd have business cards all the time in my pocket. But so anyways, after tattooing a lot, cool people in the area, little by little, I started going to a lot of video shoots. I met a lot of videographers and photographers that were shooting actually really cool projects. I had a good friend of mine named Gerardo, and he was a big contractor, and he introduced me to some people that were shooting videos for like Taigo, YG. They were working with a lot of people back then, even before these guys started popping. So I did a lot of networking, a lot of groundwork going on set, and that sort of thing. The way I got into like hip hop and tattooing artists, because I think I've for a lot of years I worked on a lot of hip hop artists, and like the first guy that I ever like really tattooed like that was an artist named Fora. He's a shout out Fora, and he's signed to Warner Brothers Music, and he's going on tour. He's just killing it. He's very successful. I think he just did Rolling Loud. But anyways, I met him through some mutual friends, and that was a really cool look. I ended up meeting back to the domino effect. I ended up meeting a few other artists that way, and after that I just kept pushing, and that led to a lot of really cool opportunities, and it was just artist after artist after that. And I did do a lot of reaching out, man. I did. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh, these were all referrals, but bro, like I was still doing a lot of work with it. It's like once I caught one, like I was hungry, like I really wanted to start working on a lot of artists. I'm like, so I spent a lot of days just messaging people, really. And I did it, every night. It became a ritual, like I just constantly every night, like I would, it was a goal of mine before I went to bed. Like, okay, I'm going to message maybe 50 people. And I did that every night for so long. The way I saw it was like, let's just say basketball, you're shooting at a hoop or a basket. Like, bro, you're shooting, sooner or later, you're going to start hitting, so it's a numbers game, really. So, and that's kind of what started happening. I started messaging a lot of people. I started getting replies back, and, I started building real relationships, because I think that's like what separates me from like a lot of people. Is I know a lot of artists that like will pull up on artists or celebrities and stuff like that, and they're just there for like for the gram, bam, quick picture, they're done. For me, bro, like I really, when I work with people, like they're people that I genuinely like, the people that I genuinely want to work with. Of course I get opportunities that are sent my way that I'll take care of, but what I seek is like real. I really want to I want to build with people, man. I want to have real relationships, so it led to a lot of hip hop artists for a lot of years, and then now it's like transitioning into athletes now. And as we were mentioning before we were recording, like I think now the next step is like I'd love to get into like a worldwide scene, and work with worldwide music artists and athletes, and like soccer, like soccer's major,
oh yeah,
it's
for
worldwide,
sure.
so not only do I want to do this nationwide, but I want to go global with it. I want to go worldwide. So
hell yeah, man, that's dope, man. So talking about global, have you had the opportunity to go outside the country yet, and do any work?
I mean, as of right now, no. I've done like nationwide type stuff, like out of state. I've done Texas and a few other states here and there. But no, as of right now, no. Do I plan to? Yes. That's like I have a for me personally. I mean, planning is everything. You could plan. Things are gonna happen, of course, but it doesn't hurt to plan. So like for me, I usually set up 5 years of my life. That's kind of what I've been doing. I plan ahead 5 years. So for me, yeah, the goal, the vision is to travel worldwide. That is the goal. Like I'd love to, build up a clientele base, a following, so I can travel the world. I'd love to go to Japan and, spend a little bit of time out there with my family, at the same time, make some money out there and work, So, I mean, that's part of the vision. As of now, I haven't started traveling yet, but for me, I'm just building right now. Because, I remember early on, somebody was telling me, like, I don't know if I heard it or what, but it never left my mind. Somebody once said, if you can't kill it in your hometown, how do you expect to kill it anywhere else? That's what I've been doing. I've been trying to focus on home, staying busy at home. Then I'll take it, elsewhere, outside the state, outside the country. So
I think that's true. A lot of people, lose focus on what really matters, right? Which is home. Definitely. And so that's good. That's good to hear. And so you talked about, while you were, kind of building up to where you are today, you would spend, every night messaging people. And about how long did you do that for? About how many years?
I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I could share my personal experience. Everybody's different, we're always, and it's hard to not, compare yourself to others, because people will get success overnight. And that's crazy when you've been working so long, For me, I mean, I did that. If I had to put a number on it, I've been tattooing professionally about 8 years now. Total, I've been tattooing about 11. So I feel like I've had to do less messaging the last few recent years. Like I'm at a point now, thankfully, where I don't have to do a lot of reaching out. Thankfully, I still will reach out to people, but it's not as much as it was before. But I did that consistently for so long, and it wasn't just messaging potential clients like that. It was really trying to stay active on like social media. And it's hard, because it can be consumes a lot of your time, and it sucks because you want to be living in the real world now. But it's like if you're trying to, if you have a goal, if you have a business, like you have to spend time on the internet. So it was adding friends on Facebook, I'm talking Facebook years, on Instagram early on, it was following people, and it's like, they say you have to give love to get love. So I'd give a lot of love, I'd comment on people's stuff, like people's stuff, just try to stay active. But it was, I mean, a lot of years, man. I mean, depending on what, as long as each, because I mean, I did that even MySpace days, so I did it through MySpace, Facebook, the Facebook years, all the way into Instagram. So it's been nonstop really since I started, really. So it's many years, 8 years, it's just like, yeah.
So, because my point there is like, for anyone who is watching, or if you're listening in, and regardless of what you're doing or what you want to do, or if you're in the same kind of path as Herchell here, it takes time, right?
Definitely.
You have to have the patience.
Definitely.
And so, me personally, I kind of learned that just within the last 12 months. I restarted the magazine. I want to do everything now. Quickly realized it doesn't work that way. You do gotta put in the late nights and the DMs and the comments and the hashtags. And
definitely.
Now on that same note though, there's a lot of there's a trend I'm starting to see amongst creators, and it's with taking a break from social media. And so
I've noticed that.
So how do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel? Would that something that you would recommend to anyone who's grinding and trying to be consistent and, you know, trying to get theirs? But sometimes it might be too much. So my question is, do you advise to take that break and just work at your own flow?
I mean, I would say if it happens naturally, of course, you know, of course. But like to force something and say, hey, I'm going to intentionally take a break just for the look, then, you know, I'd say, because, you know, once if you have if somebody's interested in you right now, you're popping right now, you take that break, that break can make you fall off, you know. But if it happens again, naturally where like, you know, you have to take a break, which I feel I have. But see, let me just share something with you. I've taken breaks where like, I've been out for whatever reason. I've been struggling with like a lot of health problems. So like I'll be, you know, and I'll have to take time off, right? But what I've done is, yeah, I might take a little bit of time from not being consistent on social media. But what I tend to do is I'll stay posting, bro. Like I have so much content on like my phone that, you know, people don't even know I'm taking a break. So I mean, it's kind of hard to answer that question, but like, I mean, yeah, when you need to, yeah, take that break. But you know, everybody's different. I'd say there's no right and wrong. But you know, if you have someone, you know, if you're active right now and there's people watching your stuff, I'd say just feel it out. Go with your gut instinct, I guess. Go with your gut instinct. I mean, we have that for a reason. You know, we live off of energy, and if you really think you need that break, need to get off social media, then yes.
Yep. Yep, 100%. You know, like I said, I found myself kind of in that same boat over the last few months, and just kind of had to step away, kind of regroup, and you know, it helps because now we're here. We got the show, like, you know, and we're here in present day, and we're, you know, it's
yeah, timing's everything, man. Everything happens for a reason.
100%. So moving on about timing and kind of the future for you. You know, you mentioned, you know, earlier we were talking about the traveling thing and doing tattoos and cool spots. You know, where do you see, and your 5-year plan, you know, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Like where do you want to be?
I mean, so, you know, working with like artists and athletes, I feel like I'm at an all-time high. You know, I've been busier than ever with artists and athletes for like the last 2 to 3 years, which is cool. So I expect to really keep moving on that for now. I'm going to maximize tattooing the next 5 years. So I plan on working with a lot of people, and it's, you know, how we were talking earlier, it's quality over quantity. Now it's not so much how many people, but the quality of people now. So I'm definitely going to be a lot more selective on who I'm working with now. My goal or my plan for the next 5 years is, again, just maximize tattooing, work on a lot of different people. But I'm the type of person that, like, I can't just do one thing, you know? I mean, we're creative, we're artists, like, we can't just do one thing. So, I mean, I love tattooing. I'll tattoo till the day I die, till as long as I physically cannot tattoo, but I will also be doing other things. You know, as I mentioned, I was really into like animation. So, bro, I still, like, that's still part of my goal. Like, you know, I do plan on doing cartoons, you know, I do plan on getting into animation. I love horror. I'm a big horror movie fan. So, like, I'd love to even do like special effects for horror, you know, horror movies. That's another thing, TV and film, you know, like I did fake tattoos on an artist named Hobson. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's like an underground artist. And that really like was really cool because I found myself like watching movies, and here I am looking at the fake tattoos on the actors, you know, and some of it I'm like, man, that looks so corny. Me, you know, knowing what tattoos look like it just, you can just tell they're so fake. And it got me thinking like, you know, maybe I can get into like TV and film and do fake tattoos for TV and film. So like, you know, for me, it's not just, you know, I plan on doing a lot. And just, if I can just share real quick, one of my idols is Mr. Cartoon. I don't know if you know who that is, but Mr. Cartoon is like, he's my biggest inspiration. Like he really, like, he's the one who really inspired me to not just work with like artists, but like, you know, work with other brands. Like he just did a collaboration, I don't know if you saw it, with like Vans and Disney, bro, for it's just so cool, man. And you know, I know he's done stuff with like some of the biggest brands in the world. Like he just did an event at Netflix. So, you know, he's a tattoo artist, but he's doing a lot of cool collaborations with other brands. And, you know, for me, not saying that it's in the 5 years now, but in the very near future, let's just say, you know, the 10-year goal. Yeah, I mean, I plan on working with, you know, big brands. I do plan on working in, you know, TV and film, and just, you know, a little bit more than tattooing. I love tattooing, but I definitely will do other things.
That's dope. So let's talk about some of those other things then,
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds like it is another big part of who you
Mm-hmm.
are and what you do, and kind
Mm-hmm.
of what kind of brought you to where you're at today.
Yep.
So tattooing, you're going to continue that to the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are those other things though that you specifically enjoy doing? So you mentioned like animation, maybe some
Definitely.
special effects, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. But maybe elaborate a little bit more for us.
I mean, I guess I'll get into like the horror, bro. Like I go to horror conventions, I go to horror conventions. Like the camera can't see it, but I mean, there's a Freddy Krueger glove back, behind them or behind you. So I mean, I love horror. That's stuff that really is like my passion. So the horror thing, I definitely want to pursue. The animation, I mean, I've even thought about even interning. Burbank isn't too far. I've even thought about interning. I mean, the thing too is like me having so many tattoos. I hope it doesn't limit me, into getting into places. Um, but that's the other thing too. I do plan on getting a lot of visible tattoos. But yeah, horror, doing the animation. Aside from that, like I'd love like okay, children's books. Like I have kids, I have two kids, and that's another like dream of mine, goal of mine is to possibly do children's books. Me doing the art, my wife she could do the writing. So that sort of thing. I mean, there's a few other things that I could share, but they're projects that are currently in the works right now. So I don't want to get it out there right as of right now. But I mean, I'm constantly working. I mean, these are the things that keep me up at night. Like, okay, what can I do next? Like, or what else can I do that can help me? Because I just don't want to depend on tattooing to make a living. Like, again, that was my goal early on, but now I'm at a point now where I have been making all my money off of tattooing that, like, I don't want to depend on it so much. Like I'd love to have another source of income where I can tattoo more freely, where I can just be very selective on the clients that I tattoo, the subject matter, all of that. And so I do plan on having other sources of income, other passions, other projects, but it's so hard to balance though. You said you have a child too, so it's so hard balancing that, the dad life. You're trying to make everybody happy, and it's a never ending like struggle. Really, it never ends. That's my biggest, like, I'd say that's my biggest problem is the maintaining the balance, really. So there's so much I want to do, but at the same time I'm just trying to stay balanced.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because no one becomes an entrepreneur, or no one goes after their own thing because they necessarily want to work less, right?
No.
That would I would argue that is probably like the most number one misconception of anyone who says they're an entrepreneur and actually doing something. Is that you just sit on your ass, you just do whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people think you're just the boss that's like away while the money's getting made, but
no, it doesn't work that way. No, so that's dope, man. I mean, we were talking before and kind of like what I do outside of this, and so I'm creating content every day. But like I said, this is what I'm going to be doing is producing content, and this is kind of where I see myself is sitting down with other creators like yourself and putting you guys on, because at the end of the day, I mean, the premise of this whole platform is independent artists. And a lot of people think like, oh, indie is kind of like, I don't know, it might have a misconception to some people, it might not, but it doesn't sound fun necessarily. And so that's why with this platform, it allows me to broaden the spectrum to open up to really anyone who's creating something, and the fulfillment I get from this outweighs like the sleepless nights, my daughter asking me why I'm working so much, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, what, let's just deal with it now. That way, we can chill later. And
exactly. Yep. Work hard so you can vacation later, man.
100%.
Definitely.
So, let's kind of move on and talk about, what do you got going on right now as far as maybe, who are you tattooing right now, or, what other things are you doing right now that's exciting to you that, you're proud of, and, that, we want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, like, as of right now, recently, I've been doing a lot of work with, like, Lakers. Now, me personally, like, I've always supported, like, the West Coast teams out here. I'm born and raised in California. But, like, I've never really followed sports. I've always, I've supported the teams, but I've never really followed certain teams. I've always supported the Lakers, but now what's changed in me now, I find myself like watching more of the games now because, you know, a lot of my clients are playing now, and it's really cool, you know, because now, you know, it's a different vibe now. Like, so now I'm watching the games, and, you know, it's cool to see your tattoos and whatnot, but, you know, it's just changing that part of it for me. I find myself more interested. I'm keeping up a lot more. You know, I'm getting more familiar with it. But you know, the whole Lakers thing has been really cool. You know, I mean, I personally, I love hip hop. I listen to a lot of hip hop. I grew up on funk and oldies, though. You know,
Yeah.
funk and oldies. That's like, you know, where my background. You know, my handle, Rock Roll G. That's actually an oldie by Alon, which is Rock and Roll Gangster, which is one of my favorites. You know, that's where I got Rock Roll G from. But as far as like, you know, today, like I listen to all sorts of music, but I really love hip hop. I stay up to date, you know, on a lot of the news, a lot of the current music that's out, which is crazy because like I feel a lot of people my age, they're like totally against it. You know, they don't like the new music, you know, the new rap. You know, I enjoy it all. You know, I enjoy the old, I enjoy the new. So, you know, you know what's changed with like the artists. You know, now it's more the sports. So that's been really cool, is working on athletes. And you know, I just did some work on Kyle Kuzma. He's like one of my biggest clients. You know, I've done so much work on him like for about a year now, a little bit over a year. And then I recently started doing work on the Ball brothers. So that's been like really exciting, you know. I call it a hit list is what I have. I call it the hit list.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a list of people that I want to work on, you know. And for like music, like I feel like I've you know, scratched a few of those off, which is pretty cool, you know. And you know, working with like some of these Lakers, I always wanted to work with athletes, and that's been pretty cool. So the athletes have been cool, have been fun to work on. Music artists have been fun to work on. And I think what I was telling you earlier was, you know, I think now what I want to transition to is working with Spanish artists. So that's kind of my next step.
Dope. So kind of going back to Kyle.
Yeah.
I know you've done a few tattoos on him,
Oh, yeah.
and I saw recently you have a post on Instagram of what was it, NBA 2K19?
Oh yes.
With the little 100 emoji
Yeah.
tattoo on there. So I mean, how does that feel?
I mean,
That's
bro,
pretty dope.
Those, I mean, you know, just like how you were saying, like when, you know, the rewards start coming in, I mean, that's like when the work finally starts to pay off. It's really cool to see, you know, yeah, my tattoos are in a video game. Like it's really cool, man. I mean, you know, I want to make my family proud, and, you know, posting things like that, like, you know, my dad sees that, my mom sees that, and they're all, you know, it makes me happy that, you know, that they're proud. So it's really rewarding, and, you know, it is fulfilling, you know, definitely. Yeah, doing stuff like that. I mean, you know, I see like TRL, for example. I grew up watching TRL, and, you know, now I see guys, you know, having music videos, and my tattoos are in these videos, you know. So it's really cool, man. I feel like, you know, I've been doing this so long. You know, have you heard of the 10,000 hour like theory or rule? So I feel like, you know, I just completed my 10,000 hours. You know, I've been doing this for so long. So I'm really starting to see like the manifestation now. Like things are really finally starting to pay off, you know, and it's really cool, you know. So yeah, it definitely makes me happy. You know?
Yeah, man, that's dope. So as we start to kind of close up here, I mean, the whole premise is to really give some insight to other creators, or really anyone and that's doing what they want to do. And so let's maybe boil it down to your top 4 or top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to anyone, either kind of in this same field that you are, the same world, or just like I said, anyone who's just doing anything in general. What advice would you give to them as they're going through the journey?
I mean, I would say, you know, you're gonna have to do what it takes. So, you know, I worked full time for many years. I think we were speaking about that earlier. I worked full time many years. I worked, you know, fast food jobs, restaurant jobs, you know, construction jobs, all while still pursuing my dreams. So, you know, do whatever it takes, you know. I'm just going to bring up our apprentice. I have an apprentice here who's transitioning to being an artist, and, you know, he's still working a job, and he's ready, you know, he's a younger guy, you know, everybody wants everything now, you know, and he's getting ready to quit his job. And I'm telling him, like, bro, like, no, just wait it out a little bit, you know, ride out working your job and build up your clientele base, you know, so don't rush it. Of course, you know, with today's time, we live in this instant world now where, you know, instant gratification, and you want things now. So it's not going to happen now. You're definitely going to have, you know, days when you're going to want to quit. Again, the secret is don't quit. Another piece is don't compare yourself to others. It's natural. I do it all the time and I hate it, you know,
100%.
but don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to others' success, you know. Everyone has their time, and just like many people, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I think I watched an interview with Extentacion, and he's talking about how everybody has their time, and that's the real truth, man. Everybody wins. We all win. So just, you know, put your hours in, get your 10,000 hours in, you know. Don't worry. People are going to talk shit regardless, man. Whatever you do, you can't please everybody. So, you know, don't really worry about what people are going to say, what people are going to think. Just do you. Focus on yourself. Don't get distracted. Get your 10,000 hours in, and just don't give up.
100%. Yeah, man. Well, we've been here for about 45 hours now. Cool. And so where can, for one, if you're listening in on the podcast, we'll go ahead and drop in all the links in the description. That way you guys can check out Herchell, his work, his shop, and just kind of everything that he's been into. And if you're tuning in through the video, we're going to go ahead and stick around for a little bit longer and just kind of see what we can get. But where can everybody find you online?
Shit, I'm on everything. So as long as you search Rockroll G, ROCKROLLG, you'll find me anywhere.
Dope.
Anywhere.
So Twitter, Insta,
everything
cool.
Is Rockroll G.
Cool. And then what about your shop? So
my shop is Pachuco Tattoo, Pachuco_tattoo. The website is pachucotattoo.com.
Dope. Cool, man. Well, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to you know, set aside about an hour here with me, and you know, hopefully this is one of many.
Yeah,
you know?
no, definitely. Yeah, no, and I appreciate you coming through, man. Like I told you, you know, when you first came in, like what stood out to me is the quality in your guys' stuff, man. So I'm really excited to see you, you know, your guys' journey too, man. So I'm excited. So thank you for having me.
No, appreciate it. Appreciation's all around.
Oh, yeah.
Dope. All right, well, that's a wrap. And yeah, catch you guys in the next one. Peace.